This meeting is being recorded.
We're going to open the joint meeting for Shoreline and North Shore Fire Department Board of Commissioners for October 29th, 2024, which 2024. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Amy, could you please call roll tonight?
Yes, good evening. Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Heflin,
Present.
Commissioner Callahan,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Here.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
and then Commissioner Woolen and Commissioner Admin are not here.
Excused absence.
Excused.
Excuse.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Doug, guys, you're the only public out there. Do you have anything you want to comment on?
Not today, thank you.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Cowan for the budget 2025.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share the screen and walk through. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Why is this not? Huh. Amy, is it? Try that. Okay,
Not cooperating?
not cooperating. Let's try this again. Stop share. Why is this? Let's try that. Okay, can you guys see the spreadsheet? Anyone?
Yes.
Yes, I can see.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna give some high-level overview to a few of the different tabs, and then I'll entertain any questions or go to any of the tabs or any of the line items that you'd like to look at, and then we can spend as much time, working through any of those that you see fit. So this first tab is a preliminary notes section. I will update this as we get closer to adopting the budget to reflect just some high-level summaries of what we're doing with like operations, staffing, ALS, and so forth. We are planning on adding 8 entry-level firefighters. This will take us up, I'm going to say 28 plus 2. Our goal is to get to 29 assigned in suppression. This is today's budget, and this talk is only really on suppression staffing, not ALS, not MIH, okay? And so this will get us halfway between 28 and 29, depending on the planned attrition that we have coming up. And our goal is to try and hit 29 to try and bring down some of the overtime costs. On the ALS, I just said we're not going to talk about ALS, but if you hear some summary notes of some of their different divisions, we are expecting, we have 3 candidates in training coming out in August of next year, and we're expecting upwards maybe 2 or 3 more to enter into training next year for a 2026 graduation date. Administratively, we're continuing to contract for some social media and communication work. We'll be reevaluating that in 2025 and determining, part of the contract work is to elevate all of our skills and make us better in doing some of this work. And then we're going to determine whether or not we want to continue with that contract or go higher or elevate some of our people to those positions, especially in the social media work as it relates to community outreach. We will also be looking at a data analyst position that probably won't hit our 2025 budget at all, and we're not budgeting for that. So potentially starting in early 26. I just want to bring it up because it's something that we might be evaluating this next year. We are adding a mechanic position. We have made a conditional offer. We're working through that, maybe as early as December 1st for a start date, but certainly our hope is at least by the end of the year. And we're going to look for a facilities technician and actually hopefully a facilities manager to help with some of the workload and relieve some of that pressure off of Chief Hochstein. As far as the funds go, we're maintaining our minimum in the reserve fund. We're maintaining our minimum of 10%, 15% minimum between Shoreline and North Shore. And we have approximately $20.4 million, including all total cash on hand and reserve funds. In the carryover, we are targeting at least 25%, but we also add an extra $700,000 unanticipated expenses. We have nearly, it's actually not 5.2 anymore. It's about 4.8 million of unallocated general fund, which we will need to discuss on what we want to do with that. We, on the benefits fund, will be transferring out to cover our known liabilities and all that. We maintain a little over $1 million in extra reserve for our left one liabilities. For the general capital, we're covering all of our current expenses that we're looking at. And then we're also increasing that capital fund as well. As far as the budget, our assessed valuation is increasing right now. It's about 10.5%. On our expenses, we're increasing. We've tried to keep our expenses down as much as we could this year. Our CPI is at 3.8%. We're in the middle of negotiations right now. In fact, I need to have a conversation with Doug over this next week or so to discuss what we're going to put in for a COLA for salaries for next year. Again, CPI is at 3.8%. We're just as a placekeeper for now, so that we had something in the budget. We've got it at 4.3%, 0.5% above CPI. We don't know if that's going to be a good number yet. We're working through our total cost of compensation spreadsheet and should have a number in there in the next week or so, which will kind of really tie up and finalize our our draft budget. On the revenue side, we continue to look for efficiencies and so forth. We are looking at a decrease in our equivalent levy rate of about 9 cents. Actually, it's almost 10 cents now. And then currently, our anticipated tax levy revenue will be about 11.1 million, and the fire damage charge around 8 million, which I'll show you the exact numbers when we get to that tab. Again, high level, the summary notes. Any questions about this?
I have a question about what sort of projects is the data analysts?
Whoops. Yes, so that would be here under the administration.
Yeah.
So this has been a position that we've been trying to, not fund, but trying to figure out how we're going to fill the need for this kind of work. Right now, we piecemeal that a bit between Rachel and Mark and myself and Matt and others. So it's one of those things that we can really elevate our performance as an organization if we had proper data analytics going on, especially as we try to prepare reports like the annual report and other reports, and being able to show the data. So when I say we need to do X, that I have the data to back it up and make sense. It also improves, not only our forecasting and all that, but also, in areas of grant applications and things of that nature. So we're not, one of the reasons why we haven't filled it as yet, because we're, first of all, we don't think we have anybody internally that can do this work. And second of all, which is probably even a bit more important, is we're not sure if it's a full FTE, a full-time employee. And so I try to be very cautious and careful about committing to a position unless I really know that we have a long-term need for it. So let's just assume that it's half a full-time position. What can we do with the other half of that time? And can we attract the right person that can do both the data analytics and whatever else we're going to use that person for? One of the things that we're potentially looking at, and it's not exactly the same thing, or exactly the same skill sets, is potentially looking at additional work in the IT area. And is that person also going to be able to do data analytics and so forth? So it's just one of those areas that we've targeted for many years now where we could elevate.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to the summary sheet. And again, I'll zoom in. I'll try and zoom in a bit here. I will try and go slow so I don't make you. Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm good. That's over with.
Okay. So we're projecting at the end of the year to have about $15.1 million in our general fund. I'm going to move to another tab just to show you where we determine that. This is our cash on hand and our running tallies through the end of September, and then Rachel does her magical work and kind of predicts out what the next few months look like, and that 15.1 million is that estimate. So so that starts us. This is what we're looking at as far as what we'll have at the end of this year in preparation for 2025. This general fund is what we need to get through the first quarter of next year, and includes a $700,000 buffer. It's almost exactly half of what almost exactly the same of what we have in extra, what I call extra carryover. We're carrying over extra cash on hand in our general fund right now of about 7.6 million. It's a good problem to have. We need to transfer a little bit out into our reserve to maintain that 10%, the minimum of 10% in our reserve. We're transferring out about a little over 400,000 into our benefits fund to maintain that reserve, and it's all shown down here a little bit lower. And then about 1.75 million into capital and 160,000 into MIH. So if we're looking at just a snapshot of what the year looks like, this is our expenses and revenues without the capital transfer. And these are those funds I just mentioned: the reserve, the benefit, and the capital fund. A little bit more detail about what we started with, what we're transferring in, and our projected end of 2025 balance. So we're projecting 3.8 million at the end of 2025 in the reserve. Our benefit fund will have about a little over 1 million, and our capital fund about 2.2 million. I shaded our L2GO bond payment and impact fees here because what we use, and it's over here on this right-hand side, we use our impact fees to pay for this L2GO bond payment, which was part of that Station 63 construction project, it sunsets in 2028, and we currently have about projected at the end of 2025 a little over $1 million, which includes the payment in 2025, assuming that we receive no more impact fees, which we will receive more impact fees, during this period. What this means for the overall summary, it's a $30.4 million budget. In our general fund, we started with this, which is from up above. We're projecting that we're going to end with 12.78 million. I also look at 2026 to make sure that we're carrying enough extra funds to be able to not worry about starting 2026. And what that is nearly $8 million, which basically I take a 6% inflator of our current budget and that 25%, as I mentioned earlier. And that's what we need to have, 7.94. So if you take what we're going to end with 12.78 million minus what we should have in reserve, at the end in our fund at the end of the year, we have about, and this is what I was mentioning in the other tab, we have about 4.8 million of extra funds that are unallocated, which we have an opportunity to allocate, we could apply it to buying down the levy rate. There's a number of different things we could do with it, but it's a good position to have. And if you were to total up all of our cash on hand and reserves, we have about almost $20 million in reserves and cash on hand. That would mean if we had to tap everything for some reason, which we would never have to do. So, okay. I went through all these pretty quickly, but this is kind of a high-level look at our funds. Any questions on this? Okay, so it's the levy rate. I just track where our assessed values and our equivalent levy rates going. That's cash on hand. The revenues versus expense projection. I'm going to zoom in again a little bit. Okay, so this is where this is a snapshot of our overall revenues and expenses, and what we're going to generate in our property tax levy, minus adjustments and appeals. What we are looking at in our fire benefit charge, and adjustments and appeals. This is our total amount in tax levy and fire benefit charge. I'm going to skip this for now. And then we come down here where that number transfers down to here. I'm going to skip this for now. I'm going to go back up and pick up the North Shore contribution. And then we have a bunch of other revenues that come in here with our ALS overhead, the BLS allocations, transports, fire marshal office work, their plans review and permits. And then this number here, this 1.1 million is our fire service contracts, which is all of this. And then we also have the deployments. It's a $400,000. It's in and out. We have a $400,000 deployment expense as well. We have no idea if it's going to be $400,000. It just really depends on what the wildland fires and so forth that we get next year. Then we have the ground emergency medical transport, the GMT revenues, and then some other miscellaneous revenues. And so this totals up about 38.4 million. And again, with our budget, I equal it. I changed the fire benefit charge to make it roughly neutral here. I'd like to go back up and show you what the North Shore impacts are. These are the percentages and so forth that for the personnel costs. These get populated from our expense tab, which is the next one I'll show you, the 2025 expense tab. So these are the percentages and so forth. The general expenses, I want to make note of this because per the ILA, it's a 3.5% inflator. We agreed to a 3.5% inflator in the ILA. It is up for negotiations next year, which we shall be doing because the inflation has gone up by far more than 3.5% over the last few years. And so this is not very commensurate with the amount of supplies and so forth that we're spending. But this is what our contract requires us to pay to do, is to inflate it by 3.5%. So I just want to bring your attention to this, and it's something that if the RFA doesn't happen next year, then we will need to renegotiate this piece of the ILA, and there is an opener in the contract to do so. And then unfortunately, the revenues for BLS transporters, GMT, and so forth, they went down. You'll see the 2024 amounts here went down from 300. We didn't get to the 335,000 or the 740,000 that we were hoping we would get. So those have gone down. This is there is a portion of the revenues from our contracts that I am allocating as a revenue to North Shore as well, because they are paying for some of those personnel costs too. So that's captured here. The good news is that overall, if you look at the percentages for North Shore especially, we're projecting right now at least about a 1% increase in costs. We are unfortunately seeing about a 7% decrease in revenues, which equates to about a 2.1% increase in overall net impact for North Shore, which is still, I feel pretty good. It's a 2% increase. For us overall, we're looking at about, should be populated, down here. Looking at just under a 4% increase in the budget. Questions?
Yes. the North Shore figures,
Yes.
invoice. We are looking at, we are going to form an RFA,
Thank you.
starting May 1st. So what happens to those figures? You projected this out for a year?
Yeah, so that's a great question because both the North Shore budget and the shoreline and this budget, I have to look at it as the RFA is not happening.
Right.
So these are standalone budgets, both the North Shore and the shoreline budgets are standalone. If the RFA doesn't happen, we're fine. If the RFA does happen, we would do a mid-year budget adjustment where we would merge and mesh all of the stuff together in preparation for that May 1st start date, at least, and that's going to be the approach that I would take. So the good news is that both departments are in a solid financial position. So that'll continue. There's no, there's no reason not to, believe that that'll happen. So we would mesh the things. The big question is actually not on the operations, on the expense budget side. It's really more about the reserves. For example, our left one reserves, and we've talked about this at least in a cursory manner. If we've got, say, $1 million and North Shore's got $2 million in left one liability reserves, to maintain a good addressing of that risk, do we really need 3 million total, or can we drop it to 2 million? Or should we maintain 3 million? I would not suggest dropping less than 2 million. But if we are, let's just take, for example, we drop from 3 million to 2 million, what are we doing with that extra $1 million? Are we going to apply that to capital? Are we going to apply it to other funds? Are we going to provide that as a decrease, for taxpayers, an equivalent levy rate for 2026? That's something that the governing board will have to, determine what to do, and what level of risk and that we're willing to accept. There's also, we're also carrying extra. I mentioned that extra 700,000 in our carryover. It's extra above the 25% that we need to get to the first half taxes. That extra 700,000. Well, North Shore's got extra as well. So really, what do we need? If we've got an extra $1 million in extra carryover, do we really need that, or can we drop it down to 700 or 500,000 or where are we at? We have other reserves too. So I started with 700,000. Actually, I started with a little bit more than that. When I restructured the way that we did budgeting here in Shoreline when I got here, but it's something that we should probably take another look at that, because there's extra funds there that aren't doing anything for us, that we might want to apply to different funds or levels of service or savings to our taxpayers. So we need to have a much more robust conversation about, the reserves and some of these other funds if the RFA gets approved. I'm sorry, thank you. When it gets approved, so that everybody feels comfortable about what those liabilities, risks, and those reserves should be. It's a great question though, because it's a complicated one. So.
Yeah, I'm getting this.
Yeah. So what it means is that again, dropping our levy rate by about 9.6 cents per thousand. Down here it just shows the how we're doing overall. Again, I target the fire benefit charge to get us to about about cost neutral and all that. Down here I'm tracking what we need to do to maintain our minimum reserve rate. So any questions on this? Eric, I'm sure has, but I wouldn't put you on the spot.
Under the fire service contracts,
Yes.
should there be the general event contract?
That's another great question.
Hard to predict.
Well, there's two things there. The first is that it's ALS only. Well, as it stands right now, it's ALS only. It's very much believed that this will end up being a model for firefighter EMTs. in the future as well. Not so much like right now in normal operations. Seattle is very depleted and hurting on the ALS side and the paramedic side. But as we get to FIFA in 2026, there's an expectation there'll be a need for a lot of other firefighters and so forth to staff up events. So this is going to be the catalyst in not only addressing the paramedic situation, but potentially, other big events if they occur. So it can be a model ILA, interlocal agreement, for those future events. But this, right now, it's going to be on the ALS side, and it'll be an in and out. It'll be a reimbursement of cost of sending paramedics to Seattle. So, okay. So expense, this is the big one. A lot of pages. So this is all of the different line items, starting with administration all the way down. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And then I try to capture any transfers for different funds and so forth. If I need to pull from operations expenses, some of these need to be updated because they've been updated, and I just updated them a little bit earlier. Like, for example, the capital fund is now,
Can you make that full screen?
16, so it needs to be 1.6 million. Sure. Sorry, thank you. So I need to adjust this a little bit. And then it's a breakdown from, the different divisions, administration, legislative, fire suppression, et cetera. And then, summary by programs and so forth. So the rest of the tabs, I can go through the capital. The capital budget this is what was proposed. This is what we've, as an executive team, this is what we've approved so far to be able to present to you all. There are still some questions about some of these things that I've highlighted in yellow that we still want some better clarification or decision-making on. You'll see that there was, some of the things were not approved that we just didn't feel was appropriate at this time.
Scroll back up a little bit.
Sure. Further?
No, I'm just looking at the proposed versus the budget, the
So,
fire rescue boat.
yeah, that was proposed. We're not supporting that right now. So it's something that actually, I think there is a need for a fire rescue boat, especially considering Kenmore Air. But I think that it would be a prime grant project. I'm not super excited about spending a bunch of money on a fireboat if we can get a grant to do it, or maybe have Kenmore, help support that project, something along those lines. So South King just paid for a fireboat. It was about 1.5 million.
So when it says proposed, these are just things that were proposed to you, not things that you're advancing to us.
That's correct.
Okay.
This column is what we are supporting at this time. And we need to still have some more conversation about this, but it does not, our capital budget, at least for 2025, does not impact our AV or levy rates or anything like that, because it'll be pulled out of the extra cash on hand that we have at this time. So, but this is this line item is what we're supporting so far. And we still have some questions that need to be answered. And some of them are highlighted that we want to make some, we needed more information or we needed to have further discussion on. So this isn't completely finalized right now. But I wanted to give you a sense of what, what's in the pipeline.
This includes all the kind of major items that need to happen in North Shore.
So I can show you the North Shore one too.
That's a separate budget.
Yes.
This is just the shoreline.
This is just the shoreline, which captures most. The things that aren't captured here that would be on the North Shore capital budget would be apparatus, IT, SCBA's, or anything that's a major facility upgrade project. Like, I just tell you that one of them is like an SCBA compressor for 51.
So this master budget kind of encompasses both sets of, say,
On the equipment side, yes.
like salaries and all that sort of thing, but capital is two separate.
Correct, correct. One thing that just got added like about an hour ago, found out, I just want to bring attention to it, that the 3.8 cars that we're purchasing right now, that we're supposed to be in 2026, we may get them next year. So I had to add $1 million to our, which is why some of our numbers are not accurate now. I just found out at about 4 o'clock today. So, and again, we've got some SCBA, potential SCBA purchases, equipment purchases. Again, there's still some questions here about what we're going to do. And some facilities that, not a lot of facilities from our previous year at least, but we have some new items down here. One of the, you wouldn't believe how much they want for a security gate at 65, $100,000 for it. I'm in the right business, just at the wrong end of the supply chain. I got to tell you. It's this last 2 years especially, it's been a lot of shock and awe about the price points of different things. Well, as you guys know, the 57 generator, just $400,000 for, and that's not even the entire project. It's just part of it. It's just crazy.
Is it just where costs are, or do you think we're subject to some special pricing because we're a government entity?
I think that's a good question too, because and it's interesting because I think it's just my opinion. I can't really swear to it or anything. I think it's partly the economy and the supply and demand, and I don't necessarily believe that there's, or I wouldn't have necessarily believed that there were supply chain issues still, but every now and then I say, okay, well, how much is it going to get to get a replacement, apparatus bay door? Well, that'll take 4 months, 6 months. I'm like, what? Really? So there's still some of that shock and awe, and I think because of some of those pressures, they're able to charge more, or the cost of the good is more expensive. But to your point about government pricing as well, we're held to by state law. We have to, like, if we're paying for a service, we have to pay prevailing wage. We have to
The camera's off. Okay, now we're back on. I think you have to reinitiate the share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. All right, thank you. Anyway, so we still have some work here to do on the capital side, but this is where we're at right now. The rest, I do have some of it. I have not updated this, and we were just working on this earlier today as well. But I do include the North Shore capital here. It does not affect our budget at all. It's just so that we have a way to look at what we're budgeting for and preparing conceptually for the projects and so forth. The rest of the tabs are different things like ALS expense, capital, MIH benefits fund, left one details. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. So it took more than 20 minutes, not much more. So that's my high level review of where we're at. Do you have any questions? Do you want to look at things? Where would you like to look in particular, or is there anywhere that you would like to look in particular? I don't know if you had an opportunity to review the spreadsheet that I sent you guys. There's a lot there. You know, I get it. We're in a great financial place. We're holding costs down. We're decreasing our overall equivalent levy rate by about, right as it stands now, about 9.6 cents per thousand. I'm targeting about $1.1737 an equivalent levy rate.
Is that due to growth in AV?
It's due to growth in the AV. It is due to us being able to hold our costs down as well. But it's primarily, you know, we're estimating about a 10.5% AV growth right now. So when we keep our costs down to that roughly 4%, that helps us decrease the levy rate. The levy rate for North Shore is also going down, not by as much, but it's going down. You missed it earlier. I did send an updated, I was able to meet with Dawn today and talk about fund balances and all that. So you have a spreadsheet. We're not talking about the North Shore budget tonight, but you have it in your email. Questions? Anything that you'd like to look at in particular? Okay.
Last year, the DRS bill came late.
Yes.
That,
So
I guess, on track this year.
So you'll see, I've highlighted still some, there's still some expense. There's not many, but as you look in this column here, anything that's highlighted in yellow is we're still trying to get some clarification on and so forth. You know, to your point, one of the things that really kind of messed up the 2024 budget is that we set all of this and then we got new DRS rates that were different. And so that's screwed up throughout the entire budget because it auto-populates into many different divisions and areas. Done the best we can with trying to keep updated. It could occur again. I can't say for sure that it won't happen again, but we do reach out, like especially like, you know, in utilities, like we reach out to Ecology and we try to get, you know, estimates, you know, on really what the expenses are doing, and some of them know, like, you know, some of them are you know, like City of Seattle and you know, PSE and all that. They're regulated. They have to forecast out what their 2025 rates are, but others don't, you know, as much. You know, a good example, you know, some of these things that were pest control. I mean, that's not regulated. You know, fire system maintenance. These are all private companies. They're not regulated. So we ask for them to tell us what their 2025 rates are. Some of them don't know, some of them guesstimate, and some of them are wrong, and then they'll do something different. You know, but at the end of the day, as long as we're close, the differences are pretty minor in the whole scheme of things.
I do have a question. Why is Kenmore pest control more expensive than Shoreline?
So station 51 and 57. Well, first of all, Station 51 is very large.
It's what?
Station 51 is a very large building. sometimes it's different companies. We are working towards like trying to, I'll give you another example of us trying to, like landscaping, for example. We've had at times 3 different landscaping companies working on the different stations. We're really trying to consolidate that into one contract to try and get economies of scale and save some money. But this is one area that if you look at, we're at a point where we can almost hire somebody just to do landscaping and maintenance work of our parking lots and stuff, and it would wash out, pun intended, I guess. So that's something that, you were asking earlier about, if we were to do, the RFA, that would be something that we don't have the bandwidth right now to really pursue in time at least.
I didn't say if, I said when.
Okay, I know, dang it.
When,
You can slap me later.
when.
I'm sorry, or throw something at me. When we get the RFA, approved, that would be something that, that it's on our radar for next year to reevaluate what we're spending on landscaping and so forth. And does it make sense to hire our own person that can do other stuff besides landscaping? And with the amount that we're spending on some of these things, it almost is a wash. It would make sense, especially if we were able to work on other things besides just like landscaping. So now some things you still have to spend money.
I understand why
Yeah.
there's differences. The
Well,
areas are bigger in some.
Yeah, and you need an arborist to do
But-
certain things, but
Pest control, okay, they put out an additional box.
it's
I think they got a different company than
it's
ours.
more it's more than that, and we have different companies that are doing it, and they charge different
Okay,
rates.
all right,
We are trying,
that explains.
we're trying.
They built more.
And we have made strides on some of this and consolidating. It's one of those things that we're still working on as we, North Shore, Legacy North Shore Line get together.
Which will happen.
Yes, it will. HVAC maintenance is another one, where we were spending different amounts. 63, for example, is like a lot more expensive because it's got newer systems that require a much more, a higher level of maintenance and expertise, so.
Chief, are we gonna have a separate presentation that's just on the North Shore budget?
Yeah, this tonight is shoreline budget, it's not North Shore.
Because it's a joint meeting, I thought it was the master budget that encompassed everything.
No, this is just the shoreline budget.
Okay.
So the North Shore budget we'll review on November 5th. Any other questions or, we can look if there's questions about any of the funds or?
So that reserve is just the shoreline reserve.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure that I give you all the opportunity if there was anything.
You want a decision tonight?
No. This is just a high level review. It's close. It's
Not final.
99% there.
I would like to have that in paper form yesterday.
The printout of this whole, I can print it out for you.
Because you've been kind of, it's like it's just about time my lives get focused on it.
Well, I'm sorry, I can slow down. I just didn't want to waste. Is there a certain place you want to go? I'm happy to spend as much time as you'd like.
I don't want to kill a tree either. Maybe we can.
I think
print out
paper
one
too.
copy and drop it in.
I can print them out. It's there. It's I think it's 87 pages.
Oh, it is?
It's a budget, it's
Maybe
a
I'll-
$38 million budget, 87 pages, no big deal.
Okay. I can print them out. I can start printing them out.
But
right now.
if this is just the overview and you're gonna come out with a final one, we can wait till that.
Well, this is pretty close. I mean, if this would definitely give you the areas as you look at them. It's not finalized, but it would definitely give you the areas if you were wanted to look at something, more specifically or in particular. And one thing that I would stress is that there are certain things that are in this that are confidential or private.
Yeah.
So this is not something that we can just post the whole thing. But I would like, if there isn't any objections, I would like to post at least the expense budgets and the elements that I can. Specifically, I can't show some of the benefit because it has people's names and information. So, but I can print
You've
this
done a lot
out.
of work on it, I mean, I'm not.
So, by the time we're done with our meeting, some of these might print.
David, you're gonna make chief kill trees.
Huh?
You're gonna make chief kill trees.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's-
actually.
It's important that you guys feel completely comfortable.
I'll just print out the pages. I don't need the whole thing.
You have this digitally sent to us, correct?
Yes. Flip on long edge. I want to save, okay, it's going in gray. Okay, so that's good. How many people want copies? Yeah, you already have one.
Am I the only one?
Okay,
I'll wait until it comes out, and then
Okay.
there's just a few that I would be looking at. I was there for the budget process. I know there
Well, I'm okay with that too,
were-
waiting for one.
So,
I mean, we're not approving it, so.
no, but
I'm good
it's,
with that.
it's pretty close. But yeah, well, once I have it finalized draft form, I will send it to you guys again and say this is the final version. And then you can look at it digitally or if you want to get it printed out, then I can print that out at that time. But it's printing right now. So you can have a copy that you can take home, take a look at. Okay, well, thank you.
so I have a comment. If we're wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I know we covered a little bit of North Shore's items in there as far as the invoice and stuff. It would be nice, I think it would be nice if you also presented the North Shore budget while the North Shore people were here.
Okay.
Right now.
Well.
Hold on, what's our agenda say?
I guess in the future, we won't need it, will we?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, he sent us the budget, which I did have an opportunity to
Okay,
walk
all
through,
right.
and I did email him some questions.
actually,
I just thought.
it says 2025 budget. If you guys are okay, I'll bring up the North Shore budget.
Sure. I mean, that way, Josh and Rick can see it too, and, yeah.
Because it doesn't specify which budget. So, stand by. I think it's this one. This is the most recent one.
Too big a goal.
This is something I said.
Okay.
I noticed on the invoices and stuff, we go through the, there's a few things we do different services. We got like Willard's dust control, they got someone else.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the expense. This is the Board of Commissioners expense fund.
Can you go through the notes in the summary?
The notes is not updated. It's mostly what I have already with the shoreline. One, I need to update this for North Shore. And the summary will make more sense once I go through the Board of Commissioner. Well, I can start here, that's fine. So this is the 2024 numbers, and this is 2025. The expense budget here is the amount that's the Board of Commissioners expense budget that's outside of the transfer to Shoreline. Okay, which is this amount here, and I highlighted in yellow because we haven't finalized the Shoreline budget, which may change this number. And so this number is reflective of the total cost before the revenues on the Shoreline side. This is the total amount of those personnel costs and the 3.5% on the general expense. So we used to have a transfer for MIH, but now it's a direct to Shoreline, so that's why it shows 0. We don't need to transfer any into reserves, but we do need to transfer money into the benefits fund. This is for the incentive to retire fund for the people that retired out of North Shore before the ILA. It's $94,000 and $94.19, I think, or $94.09 per year. We are obligated for 25 and 26, but we're thinking that we would like to pay off everybody in 2025, which we're still looking for Matt Paxton to weigh in on and whether or not that's allowable under that agreement. So what we're budgeting for that. Transfer to the capital fund. This is what we've projected for capital expenses in 2025. This is the bond payment, which you'll see down here. It's about the revenue and expense and the revenue down here. So a total of 17.5 million in expenses. And then we have the revenues, and these revenues are shown, I've identified them here, but they're in the Shoreline budget as a credit against the 13.7 million up here. You guys with me? Okay. And then there's some other miscellaneous revenues. We have some interest and miscellaneous revenues. This fire tax levy is based off the AV, which is here, and the 70 cents, which is what we just passed in the lid lift. So it's at 70 cents, which generates 8.9, almost $9 million, which is shown here. And then this is the fire benefit charge is manually changed again to try and make it equal to about net neutral.
Well, so what happens assuming the RFA is voted on and passed? What's the effective date?
May 1st.
May 1st. So then, what's the soonest date that the RFA as an entity can collect tax and benefit charge?
Well, we could merge January 1 of 2026 because all of the 2025, all of the taxing, everything will have already been sent to the county for management. I guess that would be a good question for Brian. I'm not.
Isn't there a thing where you sort of have to float for like a year or something? There's a thing where you aren't able to collect revenue right away, so you have to have enough.
If we were waiting till the fall election of next year, we would have to wait. So that's one of the reasons why we want to do it early in the year, so that we don't have that. Because you're absolutely right. If you don't do it before. Don't do it before September 1st, then you will not be able to capture the following year.
So there's not a budget implication for us that the way that it's timed right now. It
No.
should be kind of one goes into the next.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually, I can't imagine it being easier or more seamless for us because we're already together for the most part. It would basically be taking, because we have to reestablish new funds and all that, but it would be basically taking the funds in Shoreline and North Shore and putting them all together into one set of funds. But because most of the expenses are already in the Shoreline budget, because aside from the Board of Commissioner expenses, there's really not that much there. And so we would need to do a mid-year budget adjustment and mesh all the remaining expenses together. Excuse me. And as I was mentioning earlier, we need to have a pretty robust conversation about what we want to do with our risk liabilities and those reserves. And, do we just 1 and 1 equals 2, or do we, adjust, due to the risks or whatever?
And I have one sort of off-topic question, but sorry, that just occurred to me. Is there a validation permit?
No.
Okay,
It does take a super majority though, 60% plus 1.
but it doesn't have to be X percent of this coming general election.
No, which is great because we're going to be following a crazy. This next week is going to be a little crazy, so more than likely. So all this said, again, I try to identify the different sources, even though like for example, these things are embedded in the shoreline budget with this. I was trying to identify so that the commissioners would be able to identify the different sources and all that. What it means is that the total bond or total with the bond is $1.237, and without the bond it's $1.115, just down a little bit from the $1.132 that the North Shore equivalent levy rate currently sits at. But there's still some decisions that we need to make regarding fund balances.
What happens to the bond if
We've already agreed to, that the bonds would remain with the originating properties. So the North Shore GO bond would stay with the Lake Forest Park and Kenmore owners, and the LTGO, actually we have a UTGO and an LTGO, but the UTGO, same situation, would remain with the shoreline, and that one sunsets, I think, in 27. I think it's 2027. The LTGO is 1 year later, I think in 2028. But the LTGO is getting paid for by the impact fees, so it has no impact on our operating budget.
And what's the end of the North Shore bond?
2027, I think. In fact, I have it actually right here. Yeah, right there. We have this payment here, 1.568, goes up to 1646 and 1722, and then it's paid off by the end of 27. Which is about, I want to say it's about the same as our UTGO here. Our LTGO is in 2028. If we go back, well, I don't want to go back, so I have to share screen again. But if I do go back, I have our LTGO payment schedule with the impact fees showing the running balance. So.
Chief.
Yeah.
Chief, Commissioner Pratt has his hand raised.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Amy. 2 questions, Chief. The first one, can you maybe speculate or explain why the BLS transport revenue and the GEMT revenue is down so significantly?
I wish I had a good answer. I don't. I can ask Rachel to speculate, but we're just not seeing the revenues that we thought we would. I don't have a good answer there. So I can ask Rachel. She might have. She's much more in tune with that, and she was the one that gave me the numbers to put into the budget. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Second question. Can you remind me in the 2024 budget what the 2.4 million reserve fund transfers were targeted for?
I'll show you. So can you see the spreadsheet still?
Yep.
Okay. So the fund balances here on this is where we needed to build back up some of the reserve funds, and especially in the capital fund. So this is what 2025 is looking for, but you'll see that it's a combined capital fund now, where there was it was less than $1 million. We now are targeting about 2.3 million in that fund. So that's it built up the capital fund. It built up the benefits fund a bit. And that was, it was predominantly the benefits fund and the capital fund. And we still need to transfer some money in for for some of these things, like for example, the employee payouts and so forth. And we're still working on the GASB, estimates and all that. We believe it's about 2.2 million that we need, so we should be okay. We should be okay there, but we still need to do some work on the GASB. But really, we were trying to build up the capital fund there and prepare for the rescue purchase that's going to be in 2026.
Okay, I'm seeing projected end of 25 at 2.3, and
Correct.
where are we at right now?
We're at
That's
2
at
points. We started the year because of the transfers and so forth at 2.2. We're projecting the end of the year to be about 2.3. We're budgeting to cover the capital costs, which are at about 1.6 million right now, and that's why we end up at around 2.3.
Okay, thank you.
So I was going to go to the capital because we were talking about this earlier. So these are the capital costs or capital projects that are being proposed, not approved because it requires the board approval in this, 2025 proposed in 2025, which is what we're supporting the executive team, but again, it needs approval. So another, we're budgeting another $500,000 towards the Rescue 151. We need to replace a couple of Trailblazers staff vehicles. There's a wireless install for the frontline fire engines that got overlooked. This is the IT budget here, which Zeb weighs in on. I reviewed it with them, and it all made sense. One of the things that we did cut back on is electronic door locks. He wanted to do a lot of the electronic door locks, and so I cut it down to the ones that are on the exterior or in areas where we needed an electronic door lock. Don't need any LCD projectors, but some other software and hardware, security cameras, and so forth. That's where a big part of the equipment expense is. For SCBA's right now, all we need is, I think, all we need from North Shore is to cover a few new hire masks. And I believe that we've gone to your point earlier about the equipment and so forth. I think we're caught up on all the equipment that we needed to upgrade. You might recall that there was some upgrades and uplifting that we needed to do with the North Shore apparatus, and I think we're all caught up, which now means it all needs to fall back onto the shoreline budgeting process. On the facility side, this is where a big part of our future expenses are potentially at. We're deferring, or this is what we're recommending. We're deferring the 51 HVAC work. We do want to upgrade the lighting at 51. We have a server room suppression system that's non-water based that we need to put into, and that's actually here at 61 as well. We are waiting on the outbuilding at 51. Actually, I'm not sure if we'll get there anytime soon, but we do want to look at doing the carport. We are deferring the generator fuel tank. We believe it's around 200,000. I put some notes here, trying to update some of these things. We believe it's probably around $200,000. The fueling station, again, deferring, probably about 125,000.
What's the reason for the deferrals?
Twofold, trying to keep costs down a little bit, but we also need to do some scoping work. And so next year we want to, it's one of the reasons why we weren't able to do some of these things and while some of the projects were underfunded, and we need to make sure that we're budgeting for them and have the proper scoping work done. So you'll see it further down in this budget where we're budgeting for architect and engineering fees, and we're doing that on the shoreline side as well. So that our plan in 2025 is to get a better handle on all of these projects and get a better cost estimate instead of just putting $20,000 in and it's coming back at 200,000 or things of that nature, so that we can be better prepared, for 2026 and beyond. The mattresses and the recliners got purchased, that's why they're not shown. 54, we're done with 54, although we still have some costs left this year to pay for. The 57 generator replacement is a high priority. Why is it not? It's 400,000, and that's not all of it. There's more in 2026. The refrigerator was done. We are deferring on the workstation at 57. And the upgrade at 57, again, this needs some engineering and scoping work. Some of that scoping work and engineering, we're budgeting 76,000. That's the estimate that we received from one of our consultants as to looking at these projects that we're looking at doing. We do need to buy a new SCBA compressor at 51. We need to put an SCBA decon washer in and and create a locker room instead of, we don't have adequate lockers. What this means is a total of about almost $1.6 million if everything was to be approved. So any questions on that? Again, we're going to talk about this again on November 5th, but so what that means is that, back to our summary, is that you'll see it's automatically populated to this page. So as we change, if we were to change capitals, it would automatically, change what we need to do here. One of the things that we do need to talk about.
Can you explain one thing back in the summary? What is this transfer to, where does that transfer from?
If we were transferring from our operating budget, if we were levying from the fire tax levy or something of that nature where we needed to account for that as an expense, like last year, there were numbers there for 2024. And so, well, actually, I didn't show it there. I thought there was a trend. Maybe there wasn't last year, but so if we were transferring money that we needed to account for out of our operating budget, that's why. One thing that we do need to have a conversation about is we have approximately almost $800,000 of extra cash on hand in our general fund. That money could be put in the capital fund for some of these future projects that I just mentioned we're deferring. We could just carry it in our general fund. We could potentially buy down the levy rate a little bit. It's a question that the board has to weigh in on. But we're showing an extra $800,000 that's unallocated at this time.
Do you have any recommendations?
Capital. So the challenge that we have is, and there's been already 2 or 3 questions about it, is when we get the RFA approved, that changes all these things because we're meshing these things. However, we have to prepare these budgets as separated budgets, standalone budgets, in case it doesn't. But also that's our, because the RFA is an unknown at this time. So we're deferring some things, but that extra funds, that 800,000, that's why I'm answering the question of putting it into capital, because that would, if for some reason the tragedy occurs and the RFA doesn't happen, we will need those funds for to offset some of the future costs and be able to pull down our equivalent levy rate over the coming years instead of reallocating more money to the capital side. That makes sense. So that would be my recommendation. If when the RFA does occur, then this money will just be better seed money, for all of our capital projects and be able to, fully fund all the things that we need to fund. So, so we could use that money, or we could do a combination. We could put some of it, or decrease the levy rate. There's some of the capital things that we're deferring that we could actually start working on, potentially if we want to allocate towards that. But this is that I highlight it because this is a question that either we need to, move it to a capital fund more capital projects, buy down the levy rate, put it in the benefit or the benefits fund or reserve fund or
It seems like
wherever.
the situation we're in with like the generator, for instance, we're kind of behind the 8 ball with some capital projects, so that seems like a good place to allocate those funds.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we're not seeing the drop in overall equivalent levy rate right now, because we're catching up on a lot of these projects, and some of these projects are coming in way higher than we expected. So that's one of the reasons. So my gut feeling is put it into the capital fund. My gut feeling with the unallocated funds that we have on the shoreline side is probably to put some of that into the capital fund there too, or other things. But the good news is that we are still both departments. Bless you. Both departments are seeing equivalent levy rate decreases. It's not as much on the North Shore side because of what I just mentioned, but we're in a good financial place. It's just, the North Shore right now, we're spending a bit more money than normal, to catch up, but we're both seeing the right trajectory in our overall equivalent levy rates. Our costs aren't extreme, in the increases. It's about a 2% increase in the North Shore and about 4% overall for, including shoreline. So on the shoreline side. So, so is there any other questions about the North Shore budget? I did send this to you about 4:30 today. So I was working on it all the way up to, this meeting.
I read it all in a spotlight fashion.
So, and I'm sorry that, I've been trying to give you guys updates instead of surprising you at the end, but I said, you had some good questions the other day because this wasn't complete. I hadn't had a chance to work with Dawn on the fund balances, which is why, for example, the AB, this was showing the overall total revenue was showing a negative because there was, part of that fund balance was not computing correctly into this. But we are, but the budget change is about 2.76. The revenue change is 6.6. Again, decreasing, levy rate overall. But this drop in the future will probably be out to about here, and then we'll start to see it, tail off a bunch more as we catch up on a lot of the projects. So in shoreline, we're seeing a much more a steeper drop. Okay. Any other questions on this or the other budget? Stop share.
Okay, if there's nothing else, it's 6:13, motion to adjourn.
So, actually, before we adjourn, if there's anything that you guys need more of, please don't hesitate to call or write or email me and let me know what it is that you'd like to see. Both budgets now, I would say, are pretty close. There's still some things that we still need to decide on, but I'm going to say we're 99.2% there. We're pretty close. AV will continue to change. We still continue to get weekly updates, so that may affect. As we get closer and closer to the end of November, that starts to get closer and closer to being accurate as well. So the fluctuations that we've seen, that we had a big fluctuation at North Shore, like hundreds of thousands of dollars difference, but now we're just seeing little incremental changes that are occurring. So over the next couple of weeks, I expect to be able to get this all dialed in and finalized, and then be in the next couple of weeks we'll be presenting the full budget and then resolutions later this next month. Okay, thank you.
6:14, motion to adjourn. It's been a motion by Commissioner Callahan and seconded by Commissioner Fisher. If anybody wants to stay, they're more than welcome.
Thank you. Are we good for that? Okay.
Bye,
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.